Hey, welcome to Coffee with Matt, where I chat to awesome people about their awesome lives. And I'm really excited. This is the first episode. Who knows where it's going to take us? But I'm joined today with the one and only Mr. Harry Yee. Harry, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming on. I know Harry from an interview we did many months ago on Quantum Leap, but I asked him back for the first episode of this new series because we ended up focusing so much on QL, and we could tell there were just so many other stories that were trying to come out, and we had to keep cutting off. And I think this time we'll be able to let things breathe a bit and have a chat. So Harry's been in a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of which we're going to be talking about. At the moment, you can see him in the cinema in Fool's Paradise.
Could I take a selfie?
So we'll definitely talk about that. But yeah, let's start at the beginning. Harry, tell us a bit about yourself and your background and where it all started for you.
Well, I came to this country as an immigrant when I was 5 years old. And we landed in New York City, a place called Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens, and then I moved over to Manhattan and had a great journey of having New York City as my backyard. Did a lot of crazy stuff.
Oh, tell me about that stuff. What kind of crazy stuff? What happens in New York?
Well, during the time, MTV was first generating, Saturday Night Live was kicking out, and disco was really popular at the time, and a lot of things were going on. New York City is one of a kind. There's no other place like it. The Bronx is up and the Battery's down. New York, it's a heck of a town, and it truly is. And then a lot of the kids were getting into graffiti, and this was the arts that they were painting on subways, creating these wonderful murals. And I started doing that when I was like 8 years old. Sneaking onto the subway, riding it all the way down to the where all the trains went to sleep at night, and with the flashlight and some spray paint, we would go and create these wonderful murals that we could see, when the train was passing by, from time to time. We would go over to the 7 train just to see, our work of art, that we created that took all night long. And it was wonderful. It was magical. Yeah. And we even had cliques. Yeah, we had cliques, as kids. In order to get into these cliques, you had to be really good with your art and with your graffiti. It couldn't be just something that you slapped on. It was murals, artistry that you put on. And, it was just a simple thing that, we kind of formatted into our brains before we went to the train yards at night because, we couldn't be in there all night long. So, this was all pre-planned and just go in there, bang it out and just try to escape without getting hurt. And I was only like around 7 or 8 years old at the time. So I grew up pretty fast in New York City, and the cliques that we were in, and you had to get, asked to join, if your art is really good. And one of the cliques that I was in was called City, and you would write that CITY on the bottom of your mural on the train just to know that you're representing City. And City meant children in the yard, children invade the yard. It was crazy. And like I said, when you see your artistry up there, your hair stands up, you get chills. It's just amazing.
I bet.
Yeah.
So working as a group, creating art that other people can see and enjoy, and somehow you ended up in theatre. I mean, that actually almost sounds like it sounds like a nice segue. When did the theatre bug catch you? Was that coming off the back of all that?
Well, basically, I was a key child. I was given the key, and it was pretty much up to me how I would organize my schedule as a kid. I pretty much did everything on my own. I even walked to school at first grade, 5 blocks down the street from where I lived, by myself. I was riding the trains when I was around 8 or 9. I fell in love with TV and movies
Hmm.
because I was left alone, and that was my best friend growing up. It was a place where I can get lost. And I grew up watching
Mm.
Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, uh, you know, uh, all the sitcoms on TV at night, the Johnny Carson show, Late Night with David Letterman, definitely Saturday Night Live. When on Saturday, at 8 o'clock, it messed up my schedule for school because I would stay up late, till like 2 in the morning, and I would have to get up around 6 to take the train that would take me like an hour to get to school. But I didn't care.
Yeah. What an inspirational childhood. When did you start to look at that and think that's for me? This is more than just this is me sitting back and enjoying watching someone else. I want to be there. I want to be part of that. How did that come about?
Well, I never thought that I would be able to do what I was seeing other people do. But I just wanted to be
Mm.
a part of it. I just, you know, it, working in the back, maybe as a grip or a lighting guy or anything like that, just to be a
Mm.
part of that magic that I would see. I would go every Friday to opening, basically every week for new films coming out. I just needed to see it. I just needed to see everything,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. Um, so I just wanted to be a part of it. But I kind of figured things out, people would ask me, uh, how are you going to learn how to act? And I didn't know what to do, but I figured out that I was acting, since I can remember. I would have kids telling me, "Hey, stop acting." I'm like, I'm not. I think all kids do, are acting, when they're playing with each other, because we act differently when we're with our friends than we are with our parents. So to me, when I realized all that stuff, I go, wait a second, hmm, I can do this, And especially with my
Yeah.
mom, when she wasn't feeling good, she was feeling sad or anything like that, I would come in the room like Abbott and Costello, hey, Abbott! And I would come in,
Yeah.
hey, mama! Hey, Omoni! Woo, 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 woo. And she would start laughing, and I knew I had her. So, in a sense, I was performing, but I was performing to my mom. And the reaction that I was
Mm.
getting was wonderful because I knew I can control that. Watching all these geniuses on TV and film and everything else, it kind of just fell in, became me. And so therefore it was really, for me, it was really easy for me to interpret all of that to my mom when she needed me. Oh, well, I didn't know it was always going to happen because I think my first acting lesson was from my father. Uh, he beat he literally. Uh, I got beat up when I was 5 by him, so it taught me a lot. I mean, pretty much it was dramatic. I mean, I didn't know what drama was, at that age, but I knew I was crying hysterically. Like I couldn't even catch my breath. It was so shocking. So in that sense, it taught me in real life how to act in front of him from then on. How not to get a beating like that. What to do when he enters a room. How to address him when he addresses you. It ruined our dynamic of father and son because it always put me in a state of shock or fear, at an early age. So I knew how to maneuver around him. So when it came for me to take some acting classes, and I did study. I studied at HP Studios, Herbert Berghoff's acting studio, and Uta Hagen wrote the book Respect for Acting. She taught there too, and I was privileged to study under her for a while. And other great teachers, F. Murray Abraham, uh, William Hickey, and Edward Morehouse. I studied under all of them, but I didn't learn that much because I learned it before I got in there. All this stuff about sense memory, all this stuff, what's your objective? I was like, wait a second, I've been doing that since I was 5, on there. And it was really peculiar because, I was only the Asian guy in the class. So for me to partner up with people, for them to play mom and dad and stuff like that, it was a definite challenge because they didn't, look like me. When I did the scene from Biloxi Blues, the Neil Simon play, it was you really had to use your imagination, to play brothers with somebody else, that looked foreign from you. So those were challenges that you learn how to maneuver. But basically, like what Elie Kazan said, acting is basically your imagination. And we all have different imaginations. So that's why we all bring our own uniqueness to whatever character that you're portraying. There can never be two. There's only one of each.
So you took acting classes. What was your first role? Because you were in the theatre for a while before you moved to LA, right?
Oh yeah. My my first step onto the stage is I did a show for children's theater for little kids, and it was the best way to start to perform in front of people. And children are the best audience. If you can capture them, you could capture anybody. But if you don't, you have a losing battle because they're going to start doing their own thing, yelling, screaming, because it's all about them. Once you get into their head, have them, then you're controlling the stage. And I didn't realize that's what performing was about until I did children's theater, and that was my first time on stage.
Yes, I can sympathise. I'm not an actor, but I have a 6-year-old, and trying to get his attention and trying to keep him engaged. They're very honest kids.
Gotta love them. You gotta love them because when they love you and they appreciate what you do, they're amazing. They come up to you, screaming, hugging, and some of them are just like, wow, oh my God. And when you have that kind of reaction from them, then you did your job. You took them to another place.
Yeah, exactly. So, can you talk to me? I've obviously been able to do a lot of research on your TV roles, but it's I don't know exactly that much about the various different theatre roles. So on the topic of different places, can you tell me about those kind of places that you went in those early days of your career?
Well, I didn't know how this journey was going to come about because, I first started acting, and when you go to this school, and which was affordable at the time, you can take a 3-month, scene study class for $125, $125, and you didn't have to be wealthy to go to this acting school, and there they pretty much chart out, what you should take. All right, you should take a technique class, take a scene study class, an improv class, or hey, and also try this theater games class. I didn't know anything about that. I was like, yes, bring it on.
Tick, tick.
And then the musical theater class, and I was singing, on my own, but I didn't find my voice yet. I was still I never studied with anybody. Uh, I got accepted to the city chorus that kids can audition for, and they would meet on Sunday in New York City from all over different high schools, and they go in there and do this choral pieces like the Romanian Rhapsody, Ave Ta Maria, and all that stuff, and it was great, and it was all for free too. Uh, and you would just be with other kids that really loved the artistry of the performing arts, and just that a little bit. But then I studied musical theater and started taking some singing classes, but they weren't one on one. It was with the whole group, and it was great. My beginning was my fear. To get on stage. On there. People call it fear. People call it nervousness or anything. You know, uh, what's a better way to say it? It's just anxiety that you want to kind of, you're just anticipating something great to happen. So, so that I had to overcome, and thank goodness for those, for the times in class. But the way I got through that was a classmate of mine said, "Hey, let's go uptown. We're going to take some dance classes." I was like, "What? Dance classes?" We're going to go up. So I went to Broadway Dance Center in New York City. At the time, it was on 57th Street and Broadway, right here, right in the middle of Times Square. And I went up and there was like 5 studios. Everybody's taking these classes, studying. Music was playing, ballet classes, jazz classes, tap classes. It was like, wow, this is great. And they had a program there where you can get on scholarship and you could have all the dance classes for free. I was like, wow, yeah, sign me up. And it was basically cleaning the dance studios, cleaning the studio, the bathrooms, mopping them, cleaning all the windows 3 or 4 times a night. You get all your classes for free. I was like, all right, Eureka! I kind of formatted my own theatrical school, with the acting classes, musical theater classes downtown. And then, and I got on scholarship, because I was willing to clean up 3 or 4 times a night. It was no brainer for me. So, so I had this program going for like 1 year. I was there religiously 7 days a week. I was limping home because my legs were like, oh, it was crazy because, I wasn't flexible, but I got down to a split on both sides. But I would take like 3, 4 classes. I was training for like the Olympics, but it wasn't really like training for me because I really enjoyed the artistry of dance. Then I started going to see ballets and then these dance shows, and it all made sense to me. So after a year, one of my colleagues said, "There's a show called Starlight Express. You should audition for it." I was like, "Are you kidding me? I can't audition for a Broadway show." I couldn't even fathom, doing something big like that. I was like, "Oh wow!" But I did dream about it. I went home and dreamt about it because it was a show on roller skates, and it was a rock and roll phantasm. Andrew Lloyd Webber, who was like the number one musical theater man at the time, wrote this show called Starlight Express, and it was like magic, because you saw the London show, the London company was already running, and so we had footage and content, and we could see what it was about because the record at the time you can buy the record, and I was playing that over and over, and I would question myself, "You think you could do it?" I go, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know." My I don't know got to a maybe, because I fell in love with it. I was like, maybe I can do it. I would listen to it every night. Starlight Express, you must confess, are you real? Yes or no? So I was listening to it and I was singing along to it. And when I got to the point where I said to myself, all right, maybe I can do this. Let me prepare. So the audition came, and I was non-union at the time. Man, it was a spectacle. there were like maybe 500 kids auditioning for this show. I mean, they were flying in from everywhere, driving in everywhere. Everybody wanted to do this show. I mean, this was before Lion King. This was the spectacle show that you wanted to be a part of. Dressing up in costume, doing all those robotic, moves, on there, singing at the same time, couldn't in the right place, all that. It was just magical. So I got up a lot of, uh, I guess, nerves at the time to audition for the show. And I got there, I signed in, I was number maybe 425, I didn't care because it was all about the experience, of being there. I didn't get seen for like maybe 6 hours later, but we had basically a party, waiting around because, they bring people in there, you learn the choreography, or you get there and people are doing the choreography and then you're learning from somebody else and you're just going through it for hours and hours outside of the audition room. You're going through it. And then, at the time, I even took a nap for like 20 minutes because, like I said, it took a long time for me to be
I'm not
seen.
surprised.
So, I woke up and they yelled my name. They're like, Harry, we're looking for you. So I got up and I was frantic. And I went in there and they taught me the choreography again. And I guess I nailed it because I got a call back to come in and sing. I couldn't believe it, because they only called back maybe a 30 out of like 400 or 500, and I was surprised. I was like, oh man, I think they made a mistake. Maybe it's somebody else, or I don't know. So, but and like I said, I wasn't one of those types that had like all these songs behind me, like they knew all these different songs or anything like that.
Yeah.
I had to learn in 2 or 3 days one simple song, and it was a song from The Wiz.
Mm-hmm.
It was easy enough for me to sing and get through it and let them know that, or let them believe that I'm a singer. And it was a song from The Wiz called "He's On Down the Road." And it goes like this. Come on in,
Right.
he's on down the road. Come on in, he's on down the road. Put your right foot up and your left foot in. Come on in, he's on down the road. Singing like that, but I kind of came close to it. The rest is history.
What a great image! This is you straight out of dancing school.
Yeah.
Feeling like, all right, I might as well give this a go. Going out there and getting a call back and nailing a great song like that. Wow, that's inspirational. And then, like you say, the rest is history. So that was Starlight Express. Did you stay with that for long?
Well, I did 3 companies of Starlight Express. I did the world tour, which brought me over to England, and we rehearsed in London for 2 months. Oh, man, over at the Cannon Studios, right outside of London. And it was great because the cast was half American, a little bit of, we had some cast members from Japan and some cast members from Australia. And we all united in London to rehearse in these big film studios because we were actually playing in stadiums. And we were scheduled to play in Japan and Australia, every city in Australia. Woo! What a dream! Whoa, whoa!
Wow!
Whoa! Nobody can do it like a steam train. That was one of my favorite songs that I would listen to over and over.
Yeah.
And then I did the Broadway company, on there, and what a thrill! And then once again, I thought they made a mistake. I was like, wait a second, really? I thought my time was clicking, maybe just it was just this show, or anything. But I'll tell you, I was one of the youngest members in the Broadway company, and I learned so much from every other performer that was performing there. It was basically, in theater, you feel like, when you're working with other experienced, performers, that they're always passing the torch. Here you go. Here you go. Oh, wow. Here you go. Oh, wow. You learn something new. They're always passing you the torch. So every time I do a show with a different company, I feel like I'm getting stronger and stronger, like, ooh.
Yeah.
But I'm so grateful, because that's the way theater is, Here you go. I thank you. Here you go. Oh, awesome.
I love the way that you've taken that, because you've mentioned that a couple of times. Like, have you made a mistake? There's clearly some kind of almost imposter syndrome thing going on there of like, is this really happening? And some people would just back off and say, yeah, no, this is clearly a mistake, it's not for me. But you're using it as a learning opportunity and saying, yes, give me more, let me be stronger, let me be better every time. And that's so healthy, and so many people would benefit from that. It's some great stories you shared already.
Well, reason why, because I want the dream to continue. And if you don't make yourself better, you're just going to stay flat. So I want it to be the best I can be, so I can provide that. So and the dream is just having a great time. When you're up there, having a great time, you lose yourself, So, as a performer, we're doing the same thing what the audience is doing too. They're losing themselves, going to some place magical, and it's a dream, and you're having a great time. So I try to stick with that attitude because I want it to continue. I want to still keep partying. That's
something that is true in every walk of life. It doesn't matter if you're not an actor or whatever you're doing. It's a general message that I hope a lot of people watching can take something away from, because it's so true. Whatever you're doing, embrace it and be proud to learn more.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, I'm soapboxing now. This is your moment.
No. Here's something that I can send out also too, because I got really lucky. I was hanging out in the city in New York, and they were having the West Side concerts there. And me and a bunch of friends, we would like sneak over there. We didn't have tickets or anything, but you can hear the music, from a couple of blocks away from the West Side. So one of those days in the summer, this guy walks by, and well, at the time it was like we were like 12, 13 years. We were teenagers, early on teenagers. So this guy walked by, and I remember exactly what he said to us. He goes, "Hey kids, you could take it or leave it, but I'm gonna give this to you." And we're like, "Yeah, what? Keep moving!" What are you gonna tell us? Because we're young teenagers and we think we know everything at the time. Yeah. But he said something that was kind of profound in me, and said, "Remember this. Attitude is everything. You got the right attitude, you can conquer the world." And he turned around and walked away. And then he came back. He came back to us and he said, "And get this book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People." That's a great book. Right in the beginning of that.
I've never read it, but...
Well, at the time, for kids, you probably know a lot of the things that Dale Carnegie was trying to register with everyone else. But, basically it taught me how to listen to other people. And that's the most important thing.
Good advice from that guy.
Yeah, with Dale Carnegie. And then the attitude, too. I just heard conquer the world. Attitude plus conquer the world equals success. I put all that together. So that always stuck with me until now and beyond, because I always try to have the right attitude. And
it's got you where you are today, but I don't want to skip to the end too quickly. What else can you tell us? Did you? Am I right in thinking you spent some time obviously touring around with Starlight and some other shows before did you then move to LA and get into the TV and film industry? Am I skipping past anything if
No,
we go
no,
there?
no.
What?
Again, I was fortunate because, right after Starlight Express, the Broadway company ended, we we were all on the unemployment line in New York City. Well,
Hmm.
what are you gonna do? I don't know. What are you gonna
Yeah.
do? So uh, it was just when you come off the show and it closes, it's just a sad time for all of us.
Mm.
The bright light dims out, and you're like, oh man, what am I gonna do? So an audition came up a couple of weeks later, and it was called The King and I, a legendary musical,
Hmm.
and uh, and also
Yeah.
the legendary actor Yul Brynner was uh, was going to go out on the road company, and they had auditions for different parts of the show. Basically, the
Hmm.
he was out on the road before, so they kept a lot of the same people, but there were maybe like three or four openings, and I auditioned for it, and I lucked out.
There's you saying lucked out again.
Oh yeah, I was fortunate. For a week I was celebrating. Oh man, I'm gonna be with
Yeah.
Joe Brenner. Oh, and but a week later he passed away. We were like, wow, what's gonna happen? So it was postponed.
Wow.
I thought it was a done
Yeah.
deal, but a couple of weeks later they came back to me and said, we're gonna do the tour, and we'll have a performer by the name of Rudolph Nureyev to go out. I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Man, that guy's a legend. That's great. Yeah, I'm in. So, oh man. So I went in and signed the contract, and I was at the 890 Broadway studio in New York City, rehearsing for the national tour of The King and I. On that, all original choreography by Jerome Robbins, and then we had the world-renowned Rudolph Nureyev to lead us out there as he portrayed the king.
Well, that I will agree with you is lucking out. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
what a
You,
replacement.
a,
Yeah.
a lot, mostly everything that I've gotten, I'm just real fortunate, to experience, because that's part of it too. I think for us, it's the experience that really jives us. You know what I mean? It just gets your hair standing up. When you go through these
Hmm.
experiences, and then you can look back and you're like, oh wow, I did that. Oh man.
Yeah.
Like I can see myself doing Starlight Express now, over the years. I would like to, but I'm glad during that time I was able to, because that show is still running in Bochum, Germany. I think it's going on 35 years, and the kids love it over there. Starlight Express, all
Yeah.
done in German, in Bochum, Germany, and they're celebrating 35 years of performing up there. 8 shows a week, 35 years. That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like I said, passing the
Awesome.
torch. Another generation of kids
Yeah.
performing that show. It's great. It's wonderful. I love it.
So what happened for you after The King and I?
Oh,
What was next?
you know, uh, a big show, Miss Saigon came, and
All right.
yeah, yeah. I think the London company opened up in '89, and the New York company in '91.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it. I did three companies of Starlight Express, two companies of The King and I around that time, another handful of shows. Anything Goes, the touring company. So I kind of had my fill with theater, and then I got, like I said, when you're doing these shows and people are passing you the torch, you keep getting stronger and stronger. So, I started out with one pirouette, and then I was able to elevate that into like eight, nine, or 10 on that. I was getting better and better. And fortunately, I auditioned for this TV show called The Robert Townsend TV Show, produced by Fox Television.
Hmm.
It was a variety show and a sketch comedy show that he was directing and producing for Fox Studios over in LA. So I got casted. I was like, wow, I get to go out to LA, do this show, do some dancing live on a TV show. I was like, wow, it's great. And at the time, uh, there were great performers. You know, she's a big star right now, but Queen Latifah, I danced with her when
Hmm.
she came out with that big song from New Jack City. Uh, Also, Ice Cube and Yo Yo, Taylor Dane. It goes on. The Neville brothers, they came on, and the list goes on. So I was working uh, uh, as a performer in LA, and I was okay with it. But then uh, we got the notice that they're going to cut the show. So uh, c'est la vie. What are you going to do? So it was good.
Luck cuts both
Yeah, yeah,
ways.
yeah. So I was in LA, and that's what I wanted to do. I had my fill of theater.
Hmm.
I wanted to do film and television, something that I haven't done before. The original place where I found magic and dreams. Uh, Watching movies like with Laurel and Hardy, March of the Wooden Soldiers were magical. You know, those these big Hollywood movies come in.